can I give you a back rub? Well, do you want to give a back rub or is that code and all that stuff? They don't even talk about any of that stuff. So even in your story, I don't know if you noticed, like, he goes, hey, I'll give you a back rub. Okay, what kind? Yeah. Right? Is this for my neck or is this to get closer? But as soon as you just take that risk and ask that question, it's like, hey, why are you giving me this back rub? Or if you're snuggling up to your spouse and be like, what? Okay, are you cold or are you trying to put the moves on me? What are you doing? You should be able to ask that from your spouse.
This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate MarriageCast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 106. We are so glad that you're here joining us today. As we get a little spicy, we are talking about sex today on our show. So things are heating up, and we have a guest back to walk us through this conversation, a professional counselor with Sioux Empire Christian Counseling. We have Tony Boer back on our show. Welcome, Tony.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Tony, this is your 15th show with us on the Celebrate MarriageCast.
Means I'm passing the test or I'm doing okay, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm always nervous. I never know how they go. And I'm like, well, I keep coming back. So I guess that's a good sign.
It is such a gift for us to have an expert on our show. And as we talk every time, it's like we get free counseling along the way, but just a true gift to our listeners. And Tony, I have to say that this past week I saw you were on another podcast, and I feel like we helped to launch your podcast career here.
I was on a different podcast.
It was a great show. I listened.
Thank you. Yeah. But this is where it all started, so to speak. You guys helped me, and you're nice, and it goes smooth. So it's like it allowed me to even dare do a different one. So thank you. But
this is how it happens,
This is where
Tony.
It all began.
You're going to start getting calls. Now people are going to see you're on that podcast, and they're going to call you and be like, hey, we need an expert too. You're going to... Hey, just don't forget us when you take off, Tony.
Don't forget me when you guys are famous. I'm so lucky that you invite me back each time. So you guys, I've seen the episodes. It's just the two of you. You guys do great. You talk. You have good stories. You have good stuff, and you can kind of see your heart in it all. And it's like you're writing, you're taking that time, and it's like, man, I'm just happy to get to sit in once in a while and hear about your guys' fun stuff that you're doing.
Thank you, Tony.
Awesome. Thank
Appreciate
you, Tony.
That.
Yeah. So, Tony, we want to dive in today, this topic about sex. And, I think it's so important that we have these conversations. We talk every week. We want to have real, open, honest conversations. Why? Because one, we are the church. We should be talking about this. And what a great way to have conversations right here on the Celebrate MarriageCast.
Yeah, and this is a topic we need to talk about. When I do pre-marriage counseling, there's 3 topics that we make sure we cover, which is sex, finances, and then kind of religion. So those are 3 topics you're going to talk about through the course of your marriage. And so we got to learn how to talk about sex and be comfortable with it and okay with it because it's a huge part of marriages.
Tony, I'm excited because previously we had a researcher come on to talk about sex, and we had a sex addiction counselor. Both are females. You are the first male bringing this perspective. So I think this is going to be a really valuable show for both the husbands and wives, but just another great perspective as a Christian counselor. So would you just talk to us? So a lot of people have ideas about what healthy sex is, but do they really? Or do they just think they know?
I would say they think they know.
And where are they getting their information from?
Not in the best places, right? So if we go back to think about where did you guys first learn about sex? Most people will say, well, TV, movies, friends. Some schools had like all of a sudden the boys go one way and the girls go the other way, and they learn the biology of it all a little bit. So you get those little pieces there, but think about this. Do you believe everything you see on TV? Do you believe everything you read? Do you believe everything your friends say? Right? So there's this big piece of, okay, you got some of the story, but where are you going to get the rest of it? And if you're believing all the stuff that you see on TV and all those things and different stuff, is you're coming in it with half the story.
Right.
And that's the big thing that I'll see in my office all the time is like, I'm a marriage therapist, so I talk about sex probably 3 times a day. I'm talking about it a lot with different things. But there's this, whoa, what are you guys even trying to achieve? Do you know what's going on? Do you know what's happening? And so it's that piece of like, you need to get more of the story. I'll put you guys on the spot. Do you know where you're supposed to get the rest of the story from? not from TV, not from movies. That's part of it. It's not all wrong, but where are you going to get the rest of the story?
I mean, maybe this is the Sunday school response, but the Bible and maybe talking to each other.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
Each other.
Yeah.
Were you going to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Always.
Whatever. Yeah, of course I was going to say that.
I feel like now too with obviously Google, I'm sure that's a huge source of where people are getting their information from.
You can get information, but when you say, hey, we want to know about sex, here's kind of this piece of, what do you want to know about sex? What you really want to know about sex is what my partner's thinking, what my partner's feeling, what's going on. So where do you get the rest of that story? How God intended it from your partner, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk. We're going to communicate. We're going to do this. And we talk about communication all the time, but you have to be comfortable and feel okay. And it's awkward and it's tricky and hard. So what happens is people don't talk about it. And so we just go about it and they just kind of hope or guess, or instead of asking your partner what you think or what feels good or what you like or all that stuff, you're going to go look online or Google or talk. It's not going to be the right answer. It may have some good stuff, but it's not what you need from your partner.
Tony, do you feel like most couples that come into your office, is that the first time that they've really talked about sex and their intimacy?
Well, most couples will have thought about it a lot, right? But they haven't ever really talked about it.
To each other.
Yeah.
Until they get to your office.
Correct.
And you're kind of the
And so most couples will talk about sex with each other in the middle of a fight, right? So they're like, it's going to be stereotypical. It's not always this way, but so the man puts the moves on and it doesn't quite go right and it kind of falls apart. And now they're both mad and frustrated. And it's like, hey, well, let's talk about sex right now. Man, that is the worst time to talk about. You're mad, you're angry, you're upset, you're feeling bad and terrible. And so then they don't talk about it. Or the only conversation they have is that fight where it kind of goes bad or awkward and it feels uncomfortable. And then they just move on and hope the next time goes better. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But they never really talk about it. And so once they come into my office, you'll hear it's like, hey, just help people communicate. Can you slow down? Can you talk a little bit about where are you getting stuck? What's going on? If you can do that without all that emotion, you get a lot further in the process. Yeah, that's great advice. I think of any life situation when you're in the heat of the moment, that's usually not the time to course correct or have that conversation. Our son is having some issues at school right now with some soccer game. It's always soccer, right? He has a friend that's being really critical of everything he does on the soccer field at school recess. And I said, you know what? I think it's good for you to talk to your friend, but don't do it before or after the game. Especially don't do it after the game because it's so heated, right? Said maybe find him sometime in the morning or ask him after school, hey, can we talk? But to wait until things calm down and then address it when they're more receptive, because it's not the heat of the moment. Right. And couples, that's really hard for them to talk about sex, not in the heat of the moment, because it is awkward and uncomfortable. And sex is really powerful. I don't know if you guys noticed, it kind of sells everything and it's everywhere. And so it's really powerful. It's really intimate. And so what happens is if it's not quite going right, our brains want to like, oh, there's a problem. Well, it must be her or it must be. We're always trying to figure out, but put some blame on here because we don't see a lot of the problems when sex is selling stuff and it's in the movies and it's the TV. And so they don't talk and they don't communicate. But as soon as there's this problem, it's like, slow down. Can you let's talk and solve it instead of like, oh, must be me, it must be her. And then you bring that into it and the conversation isn't going to go very well.
Yeah, Tony, I'm just thinking of where you get your information is so important. I mean, to this conversation, I'm just thinking about my own life. And I think as you look at life, you can kind of recognize those moments of like, well, when's the first time like that you kind of like thought about that? And this is really stupid, but I'm going to share it because I will.
Yeah, honest and real conversations, right?
You know, like I remember being, I don't know, I was probably 8, somewhere around there. The first Top Gun movie came out.
Okay.
There was a scene, right, where like, you know, Tom Cruise and I don't know who the
Kelly
lady.
McGillis.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I was a teenage boy. I know where you're going with
Tony.
this.
Okay, yeah, there's a scene, right, and like there's music playing, and like, you know, that was like the first time that I'd ever seen like this on a movie, And believe it or not, though, that had an influence as a young boy growing up of like, this is what sex should be like.
Yeah.
Like, and thinking about this and thinking like, oh, there's like music and like everything is like perfect and I'm gonna ride off on my motorcycle like stupid, but it has an influence,
Really powerful.
really powerful, and so like if that kind of is embedded in your mind and you're thinking like, okay, every time like sex should be this music like it all of this.
Yeah, and if you think about that's your only frame of reference. And so then as you're older, hey, what do you think? Oh, it's going to be like this.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then when it doesn't, then that's that part's like, oh, okay, well, we start looking, where's the problem? Is it me? Is it my spouse? And I don't know if there is a problem, right? Or it's like we got to communicate and talk.
Right. And then fast forward, into teenage years, and all of a sudden there's pornography that's entered into this, and then all of a sudden you start to think, oh, well, that's what sex should be like, and you're getting this information, and it's not right. You're not getting it from the right source, and that's where I see this of there's so many sources out there that now all of a sudden you think you have a problem. Because it's not like this. When in reality, like you need to talk to your spouse and have this open conversation because your spouse is going to be your source on what a healthy sex life should be.
Yeah, and I don't care how long you've been married, you always want to keep having that approach of, I only have half the story. I got to keep finding out the other half of the story from my spouse because all those things you talk about, like pornography and all that stuff, is like, that is not the story. That is not what's happening. And so you want to figure out how are you going to do that? Communicate and talk. But if you feel awkward or uncomfortable or you don't communicate, you just keep that all inside. Your spouse keeps that all inside, and it's going to end badly.
Yeah. All right, Tony. Well, thanks for going through that. I think that's such an important conversation. The other thing here, as we're looking at this, obviously men and women are different. I'm not talking about physically. I mean, but maybe jump into that and share what that means.
Yeah, so we just got done talking about getting the other half of the story. And then why that's so important is men and women have these different perspectives, these different views even on sex and how they approach sex and how they see sex. And one of the biggest things that I see the most in my office is all marriages kind of go, we're close together, we get a little further apart. We get close together, further apart. Well, when you're far apart, men, when they feel far apart, they want to have sex because then they feel loved and valued after they have sex. It's like, oh, I'm feeling far away. I want to connect with my wife. I want to have sex with her. I want to feel like we're connected and we're good. And then, okay, everything's good with the world. Okay, that's how men's brains work. Great, cool, awesome. Now, unfortunately, there's the other half, right? Which is women's brains are exactly opposite. Is when women are feeling far away, it's like, oh, I want to feel connected. I want to feel loved. I want to feel valued. Then I'm going to have sex. It's one of my big questions I'm going to ask guys, like, why did you make them so opposite? Because it's so different. But notice now, if that's how men's and women's brains go, is so when a couple's far apart, they're both approaching that problem from a little different perspective. And if you've been married long enough, you will recognize that and see that in those fights and those arguments is when a man's feeling far away, come up, hey, and you start kind of putting them with, hang on, we haven't even talked. I haven't seen you all week. What's going on? It's like, oh, okay, well, if you can communicate that, you're going to be okay. But if not, and you walk away rejected or mad, then it becomes a mess. Well, what was happening there is, well, the wife was coming from a whole different perspective. It's like, I want to feel connected with you. I need to feel like we're close and that we're on the same page and doing those connections together. And then we can go and have sex. And so it's just figuring out how are you going to solve that one? It's the same thing as always, right? Communicate and talk. And the reality is sometimes we're going to say you're going to have to do it his way, right? It's like, hey, we're feeling far away. It's like, you know what? Can connect, have sex, and then you're going to have this connection time and this stuff afterwards. And then sometimes you're going to have to do it the other way. It's like, all right, can you connect and can you do that? And talked about being the first male about this. I'm going to pick on the men here a little bit. Is often men always just want to do it their way, right? Is can you figure out a way to connect, feel valued, and love your wife other than sex? Sex is a great one, and it's a good one. It's an awesome one. It's the best. However, it can't be the only one. And a lot of times men will be like, well, she doesn't want to make out with me, so can you talk to her about that, Tony? Can you help her feel a little better? And go, I'm like, okay, I already know where this is going. It's like, okay, well, tell me, why don't you want to have sex with him? What's going on? Don't you know marriage? Sex is an important part of marriage. She's like, yeah, uh-huh. She's like, he hasn't said anything to me all week. I haven't heard one thing from him. The only thing he's complained about is a couple things, and he's been sitting downstairs watching TV, doing nothing. Then he comes to bed and he wants to have sex. I'm like, oh, that's the reason, right? It's not that she doesn't want to have sex. It's that her brain works a little different. She doesn't feel connected and valued. So men, is you have to figure out other ways to do it. You can't just do it your way.
Do you have a response, Ryan, as a man?
Yeah, I want to hear both your guys' response. I want to hear the man response and the female response.
Yeah, I think that's right on. I think it's obviously like meeting in the middle here of the fact that it can't be one way all the time.
Hey, baby, I'm home.
Yeah.
Right. There's it has to be a mutual, of middle ground, meeting in that middle of having conversation, of having that emotional intimacy, having that, that's something for us, of just having those conversations or those touch points throughout the day.
Yeah.
of whether that's flirting or whether that's just checking in and communicating. It has to be throughout the day process.
Yeah, Ryan, and I think you've gotten really good at meeting me with that mental connection, that emotional connection. But I think for the women, like you said, Tony, sometimes you have to operate in the way that maybe isn't your first, and there might be times where it's just physical and then, the emotional and mental come next. But I think, Tony, when you're explaining it, it's such a beautiful picture of connection. There's like three parts, the emotional, the heart connection, the mental, maybe it's dialogue, communication, different, conversations. How was your day? A closeness that way. Intimacy is into me, you see. So it's just sharing your day. And then there's physical. And it's almost like those two halves, or those three parts, create the whole connection. And I think it's stronger. So it's like, what part is going to go into the puzzle first? And it might not always be your way, but acknowledging that. And I think, Ryan, that's where you've done really great, is that you recognize that and you try to meet my needs. But then vice versa. That makes me, when I see you making an effort, that makes me want to make an effort as well.
Yeah.
And I like those three parts that you said, and it's just the order in that you do those three parts, right? Men always go, let's do the physical part, and then maybe we can talk, and then maybe we'll have the emotion. No, it can't always just be one way. It has to be different ways and different things. And what happens is once you start doing that you start to see that meet in the middle. It's like, oh, when Ryan's reaching out, and he's like, oh yeah, it becomes easier to be flirty and connected. And then all of a sudden that bond kind of goes, because you're meeting each other's needs, which is what you're trying to do always in the marriage, all the time, not just with sex, but with everything.
It's a selfless act. I mean, you usually beat me to it every day. 11:11. Sometimes I'll write back and I'll be like, oh, 11:12, XOXO. But 11:11, our anniversary, and you do such a good job. I think you've shared before that you have timers on your phone where you'll take a break from work and it will say, text Michelle or something like that. And you're so good at that. So, for ours, if you haven't heard this, a lot of you know, a lot of you have shared with us. Somebody just shared they have I think their son is going to the orthodontist on 11/11, and they were like, oh, we thought of you guys. But 11/11 is our anniversary, November 11th, 2011. And so at 11:11 a.m. or p.m., usually we're awake for both. I don't know if that's good that we're up that late, but we always have this uncanny ability of just looking at the clock at 11:11. It's like a little God wink, and then we'll text each other. And if I'm out with somebody, a friend having lunch, I'll be like, oh my gosh, it's 11:11. 1 second, I have to text Ryan really quick, and they're like, oh, that's so cute, But that's for us. That's it. So that's just our little connection point throughout the day. But you're good at that throughout the whole day.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's not elaborate or much. It's just a quick text. Like,
right.
Hey.
Yeah, it's sort of a built-in check-in, of that, and it's not, part of like hear this. It's not that I'm doing that with the expectation that we're gonna have sex. I mean, I think that's a key thing. Like it has to be a genuine, like emotional connection before or hey, I'm just going to do this because I'm really hoping we're going to have sex.
People women are very emotional. You can see that. You know that, right? It's like, oh, I know what it is doing. Okay. But as soon as it switches to, oh, I'm actually doing this, like you said, like I'm just doing this to connect with you, just to smile with you, just to kind of, I'm not thinking where this is going to lead or what's going on. You feel that and you know that, right? Yeah. But that's the intimacy, right? Yeah. And you talk about intimacy. For me, intimacy, I always say is shared feelings. Sure. And you can share feelings physically through sex. You can do that with acts of service. You can do these things and those connections and that physical or the emotional part and the spiritual part and that talking. And so it's just, are you showing that intimacy to that other person? That's the goal. And the cool part is when you show it to that other person, it comes back. You don't have to worry about, well, I did this, so are you going to do this? Like if you're real and genuine and you show that intimacy to your partner shows intimacy to you. And all three of those pieces match. Yeah.
Ryan, I think there have been times where you'll be like, hey, I know your neck's really sore. Can I give you a back massage tonight? And I'll be like, do you just want to connect? And you're like, no, like it's like, usually you're like, well, I mean, sure, but no, I just really want to like,
the physical touch, or are you just actually working on my back?
No, I really want to do this for you. And the interesting thing is that lowers my guard. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a back massage from you. And you truly just want to do that to help me. I've had, from my car accident, I've had, issues. But what's interesting is that usually once my guard is down, I'm like, okay, fine, you can give me a back massage. Like that will just be so like appreciated. And it is a great connection that usually it ends up in, right. And it leads to that. So it's like, it's actually, and maybe you're just really a genius because you're like, no, it's fine.
But that illustrates when we talk about communication and do men and women have these talks or these communication things, a lot of times they don't, right? And so there's this things like, oh, he comes up to give me a hug, but he's only coming up to give me a hug because he wants something to happen. And it's like, okay, well, did you talk about that? No. All right. And the guy's like, well, I don't even know if I can hug her or not. It's like, and so it just gets these, can I give you a back rub? Well, do you want to give a back rub or is that code and all that stuff? But they don't even talk about any of that stuff. So even in your story, I don't know if you noticed, like he goes, hey, I'll give you a back rub. Okay. What kind, right? Is this for my neck or is this to get closer? But your guys are communicating and talking. And that's what couples need to do. Because else imagine if you, we're given a back rub and thinking, oh, I think it's going to go this way. And she's like, okay, thanks, cool, and walks off. Whoa, now there's these hurt feelings like, whoa, why were you doing that? And it can snowball in a bad way, really terrible. But as soon as you just take that risk and ask that question, it's like, hey, why are you giving me this back rub? Or if you're snuggling up to your spouse and be like, what? Okay, are you cold or are you trying to put the moves on me? What are you doing? You should be able to ask that from your spouse. Mm-hmm. If you can't, there's some red flags there. It's like, you better, because if you don't, you're going to get it wrong. And then there's hurt feelings. And then that void starts to get bigger and bigger. Then it gets trickier and trickier to cuddle up the next time.
Sure.
And that can be a snowball. Then all of a sudden, well, if you haven't had sex for a while, and just because I'll hear couples too, like they haven't had sex in a long time because there's been so much hurt there and they haven't talked and communicated about that. They just don't even go there anymore. And that's not healthy either.
Yeah, I think you said this. It's about expectations. Mm. And that's the thing, so like Michelle, when I offer to give you a back rub, I don't have any expectations for that. Now, if it happens, I'm not
Not going to turn it down.
I'm not going to turn it down. But what I'm saying is I'm going in so that if like truly it's a back rub. If that's if it's a back rub, it's a back rub. Like,
and it's so genuine and just, I don't know, just selfless that I truly can tell that. And I feel like that's what leads me to connecting with you, where I'm like, okay, now I do feel close to you because you've just been really selfless and you're trying to help me. And that makes me more connected.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. When you
Yeah.
feel loved and
Emotional.
valued, it's like, oh, then
Yeah.
I'm in that position where I feel better and I feel safe and I feel secure. And then women are more likely to, like you said, pursue that a little further.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about frequency. So this is a common issue with couples. The worst time to talk about sex is right when you're upset about it, like you said. But we've had other thoughts on this about frequency. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, it's probably the most common question that you get is like, and then it was, Tony, how often should we have sex in our marriage? And I'm like, I don't get to pick that. I don't get to decide that. But we talk about connection is your numbers aren't going to match. Whatever you think, it's not going to match. And that's not the problem. It's, can you talk about it, right? So the example is, I'll make the extremes and I'll pick on both of you guys just to make it easy. But imagine if you don't know this and I talk to you, I'm like, hey, how many times do you want to have sex in a week? And you're like, 7, buddy. I want it every night. Yeah, let's go. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how many times do you want to have sex a night? Or in a week? 2. Okay. And let's say you guys are having sex 3 times a week and you have no idea what each other's number is. Think about your attitudes.
Right.
Your attitude's going to be, man, we're not there yet. We're only at 3. We need to get to 7.
Right.
Let's get going. This isn't good. This isn't enough. Let's go. And think about your attitude. You'll be like, I'm rocking it, man. Yeah. It's like, I kind of want to, but I'm doing one more. I'm doing great. I'm the world's greatest wife, right? You can see how those are going to clash, right? But as soon as you slow down, have the conversation about frequency. It's like, hey, what are we doing? What is our goal? What are we going to try and do? And you talk a little bit about like, hey, here's what I would like to do. Here's what I would like to do. Okay, now you can figure out and you can start to get that. Let's say you end up with the compromise and it's 3 times. Now you have a whole different perspective on the matter. It's like, man, it could have been 1, buddy, or 2, right? It's like, oh, we're doing okay. It's like, oh, it could have been 7. Now, when you've had that communication, and you talk about that frequency, it's not scary, it's not terrible, it's not bad because you've had the conversation. But too often couples don't, right? So they just keep it in their head or they have that conversation or that idea in their head. And that's where those attitudes will come and it will just come out and it'll just be a mess.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful. I think, did you share that at the date night you were at?
Maybe.
I feel like you did.
I've told the story many times.
I think it's a great conversation because then it does go back to that expectation. So one person's not thinking, oh, wow, we're crushing it. And the other is this feeling this unmet need, but to be on the same page and just to even be in dialogue. So if it gets to that point where maybe you have a busy week and you're feeling like you haven't connected, it's just having that conversation with your spouse. Like, hey, we haven't connected for, a couple of days. Like, do you think tonight or tomorrow? But just even having that dialogue, and maybe it'll be like, you know what, I am so exhausted or whatever tonight. I have this and this and this to do, but tomorrow, let's plan on it. But then you're on the same page and you're kind of realigned and you can plan for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other thing with frequency is know how to have that conversation, right? So if you go, hey, Michelle, do you want to have sex? And kind of puts the moves on and you're like, no, not really feeling it. I'm not there. Don't let the conversation stop right there, right? Because then it's like you walk away mad, you walk away feeling like you failed, and it's this crazy mess. As soon as you add one more piece, it's like, and you did that in your conversation, well, not tonight, but how about tomorrow? Because then things are a little slower and we have a little more time. And you go, okay, you still may be bummed, but now you're walking away thinking about tomorrow night instead of thinking about what's the problem, what's going on. And so it's just be real, be authentic, and just have those conversations. Because if I say, hey, does Michelle have to say yes every time you ask? Everybody's like, no, of course not. Okay. Do you have to say yes every time he asks? No, but how come I feel bad? Because then he walks away sad and mad and gets... It's like, just have that conversation, right? Is like your expectations are reasonable, but too often it's so hard. And sex is just such a powerful thing. So it's like, hey, do you want to? No. Okay. And we just kind of end and stop there. It's like, hang in there, talk a little bit more, figure out what is our plan? What are we going to do? It's like, okay, what are we shooting for? Where are we at? Are we busy? Are we not busy? Because a lot of the times it's, you guys are in the same spot. It's like, oh, couples get really busy and they haven't seen each other. Now all of a sudden it's like, we have a little time to connect. How are we going to do that? Well, the guy's got one idea and the lady's got another idea. It's like, okay, let's talk that through. And then the problems are, they always think that they're hard to solve. They're not that hard to solve.
Yeah. I think the important conversation around this is going back to the source. Because I think this is a topic that everyone wants to compare and looking at, well, geez, they're having sex every night and we're having sex twice a week. Like there's something wrong. Well, no, there's nothing wrong. It's a matter of a conversation between you and your spouse about, hey, this is right for us. Like here's this is the right number for us. That may be different for you. That may be different entirely. And
even that numbers, like maybe we shouldn't even give out numbers, but the twice a week, I mean, man, 3 days goes by like that. So just don't put too much stake in the numbers that we're giving out either. That we're not saying that any of those numbers should be the threshold.
You get to pick your numbers.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a conversation between you and your spouse. But I'm
have
saying
that conversation.
Yeah,
Spouses
absolutely.
don't, right?
Yeah.
And just we're talking about those numbers. I would just challenge all you guys to think about is, what is your number? And then the second question is, do you know your spouses? And my experience is most of them don't. They've never even gone that far and had that conversation.
Ryan, I think from my perspective too, I want to meet your needs. So there might be times where I do want to come forward and maybe it is just a physical connection because I realize how you're living and how you are being pure in what you're consuming, or not consuming with your eyes. And I want to be able to meet your needs and take care of you because I so value the choices and decisions that you've made to make that commitment for our marriage.
Michelle, I really appreciate you saying that. And I've heard this said before that your spouse is really your option of purity. The other options are sin. There's pornography. There's those things. And I think, by living a life of purity, by abstaining from that, I think it is important that you have a spouse that will help meet those needs. Because the alternative is sin, is pornography, is those things.
Yeah.
So I think that is an important dialogue to have with your spouse. Now, I'm not saying that is like every time it's like, oh, Michelle, you need to do this. And use that as a tool. I don't think that's it, but I think it's very important to have that conversation.
Yeah, and then there's that piece of meeting each other's needs, right? And so when we talk about, hey, sometimes you're going to give her a back rub, not because you really want to give her a back rub, but it's, because her neck's sore and it's this, and I'm going to do that. Or, hey, you want to have this long conversation? I know you need that, so I'm going to do that right now. It's allowed to work the other way sometimes, and then people are like, well, that doesn't sound romantic. It's not always. It's about meeting each other's needs. Sometimes, Michelle, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to meet your needs physical. I don't know where I'm at or if I need that, but that's important to him, so I'm going to meet his needs. And that's where we just got to be real and have those conversations. Because, well, in the movies, that never happens, and that's not really real. And it's like, actually, it's no different than we just talked about. Sometimes I'm going to give her a back rub to help her neck. I don't really feel like it, but it's the nice, right thing to do. From a sexual standpoint, sometimes like, I'm going to meet his needs, even though I'm not totally into that. It's the right thing to do. And knowing that and doing that is explaining that and talking about that. And that's important. Then you're like, and then you jumped onto the next one. Well, it's not always that way. And stuff like, you're right, it's not. And so there's this piece of, that's just why you got to communicate even more, right? What are we doing? We probably don't have time to get into this, but there's all these different kind of, there's a marriage therapist that talks about the different kinds of sex, right? Is like this romantic sex, this comfortable sex, this orange juice sex, where it's just meeting each other's needs, right? That's it. It's just good for you, right? So like orange juice sex is kind of what you're just talking about. It's just good for you, right? It meets your needs. It's not like there's this huge passion or this whole big thing is like when you're like, hey, I'm not really feeling, but it's good for a relationship to have. It's good for a thing to have. Yeah. And there's these times where
we have so many listeners that are going to be like, hey, honey, you want to have some orange juice?
Yes, I get that. Oh, it's but once I hope you do that because then you can have those communications, right? Yep. So are we going to be romantic? Are we going to, is this going to be good for us? Is this just this comfortable stuff? Is this just all these little pieces, right? Is, okay, know what you're doing because that has that conversation is like, if you've been married a long time, most couples have this conversation where it's like, hey, do you want to have sex? And the spouse sometimes goes, okay. And then they go have sex. Other times, the spouse goes, hey, do you want to have sex? Okay, sure. Nah, never mind, forget it. Well, what just happened there? Well, that guy just had a different perspective of what was going to happen. And there are all these kind of versions are different. So it's like, all right, was he expecting this really romantic big thing? Then you're not going to be able to meet that need because I don't have that in me, right? Sure. If it's like, oh, is this, hey, I'm just trying to meet his needs and this is what's going on. Okay, so that's what I mean by all these little different versions of sex of the orange juice. Is it comfortable? Is it good for your body? I'm trying to remember all the ones. It was like orange juice sex was comfortable and good for you. Romantic sex was, they call it like this old pair of shoes. It's just comfortable and good and it fits right and it's good. So, it's just good. So there's all these little different versions. You guys can come up with your own words, but
like
it's
the
just,
romantic one should be a rose or something.
Romantic is like the rose or there's like an adventure. So there's all these, just talk about them and decide what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's for another episode. We'll go through that all.
Emojis for different types.
I mean, Tony, I love this conversation, and I think so much of it comes down to intentionality and effort.
Yes,
and I think having that conversation, like even like honestly, going back to the first part here of having this conversation, and the whole orange juice sex is a great conversation. But thinking about that of just like there's going to be romantic sex, there's going to be orange juice sex.
It's just functional and good.
It's just
good for you.
But understanding that it's different.
Yeah.
And that it can be different, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think, in me telling that Top Gun story, but it's good to realize there's a distinction between
the Top Gun version is great, cool, and awesome. It's not going to be every time, right? Yeah.
Right. And sometimes there's going to be orange juice sex. There's going to be different, and that's okay. That's a part of the conversation, though, of if you think every single time is going to be Top Gun, it's not.
Correct.
And I think, but looking at this from intentionality of effort, I think one of the big questions that, honestly, I'm going to challenge a lot of the guys, and I'm not trying to stereotype, but what effort are you putting in? I think it's an important question.
Absolutely.
Are you, as Michelle, you said, like, are you coming home at the end of the day and being like, let's have sex?
Yeah.
I haven't talked to you all day, but let's have sex. Mm-hmm. It probably isn't going to work.
No. And when guys like, hey, how can I get my wife to have more sex with me? I'm like, oh, I can give you that answer. Go talk to her, go connect, go put the effort in, right? And sometimes they're like, oh, that's a lot of work. But then if you kind of get them, well, what do you want? And then the guy will talk like, well, I want Top Gun sex all the time. Like, okay, well, I don't know if you know this, buddy, but that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of work. So you're asking your partner to do all that effort and work, and you're like, I'm just going to show up. No. So guys, connect with your spouses. Take the time, put that effort in, do that intentionality and that effort, and have these conversations. Listen to this. You guys should have a lot of stuff to talk about. If we think about it, I kind of almost gave you the next level. So first you got to go and ask each other their numbers, right? Then you got to figure like, oh, what kind of numbers, right? How often are we doing this one? How often are we doing? keep talking. This conversation should be a fun, enjoyable conversation to be, and to have it to grow. And those are ways to put that effort and time in, but do it before you're laying in bed.
I think another note too, Tony, you'd said, is just to keep having the talk all throughout your marriage, constantly. Don't have it once at the beginning and then call it good, but keep having that talk with your spouse. Guys, final parting thoughts on today's show.
Well, Michelle, I love what you said about just continually having that talk, because it changes. It changes through different seasons of life, even. I think with kids, with these things, it's a continual conversation because life changes. And I think that's just where, continue to put in the work, continue to have that conversation, and don't, if you have newborns at home, it's a different, or not newborns, but babies at home. It's a different season of life. And I think it's important to have that conversation so that everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Energy levels are certainly probably a little more depleted with babies than, and toddlers than with older kids. But it just depends on the season that you're in with your marriage. So, Tony, any parting thoughts?
I think when we talk about sex, you always think of the talk. Did your parents have the talk? Where did you learn? I want you guys to take away from today's, have the talk ongoing all the time. And you can phrase it, the talk. Yeah, let's talk about the talk. Where are we at right now? How are things going? What's happening? We're not going to just have the talk once in 8th grade and call it good and move on. It's no, have it all the time. So I'm going to take what you guys are saying. Just keep having the talk.
It was great. And that becomes more comfortable then, right? It's just a part of your conversations. So good. Do you guys want to do a mystery question?
Sure.
Yeah,
Tony,
let's do it.
We haven't done one with you for a while, I feel like.
So the rule is I pull it and you guys answer it, right?
Well, no, the rule is that if it's hard, you answer it. And we'll see how it is.
Oh, this is perfect. What's something small your spouse does that always makes you smile?
I feel like if I run out of time to make the bed, you'll make it over your lunch break. And I walk into a room when I get home, and it's oh, that was nice. What a sweetums.
Yeah.
Or you'll buy me chocolate bars at Aldi.
Yeah. I just bought one for you last night.
You did?
Yeah. It's in the fridge.
Where's that? In the fridge?
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm doing when I get home? Eating that chocolate. It's so good. The Aldi chocolate bars, dark chocolate sea salt.
Yeah.
Sounds
really good.
So good.
Yeah. I think two. I'll give two answers. I think one is you'll bring me coffee. And it absolutely warms my heart because I'll see you out my window and, kind of slowly drive by. I've given big waves to a few people that were just slowly driving by. But that's fine. I mean,
I can be friendly.
Right. I'm just really friendly.
I hold the cup up and then I give a big wave. So I'm sure everyone on, the lower floor can see. If they're looking out their window, they're probably who's this lady with this coffee delivery? But it makes me happy because I know it makes you happy.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I think just the check-in. I think the 11:11 check-in, if you beat me to it, that's great. I love it.
Awesome.
So.
Tony, what about you?
Well, I'll take two. One, my easy one is kind of your food one is the caffeine. I drink too much caffeine. My wife always makes sure I'm supplied. She's like, hey, I got some energy drinks for you. I found this is on sale. I'm like, so that always makes me smile.
Super sweet.
And she's like, you shouldn't drink this much caffeine. So she gets kind of upset with me. She's like, but I got it for you anyways. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty nice. And then the other thing is she will always talk to me. I'm someone that obviously likes to talk, and I like to talk about emotions and things and stuff like that. And there are times where I'm like, hey, Michelle, will you come talk to me? I need to just talk about some stuff. And she will always, whatever she's doing, pause, take the TV off. If she's in the laundry room, yep. And she'll come and say, what do you need?
Oh, that's cool.
And so it's just really cool because I know we're kind of that's not always on her brain or what she wants to do. And I'm like, hey, I need to process through something, or I need to talk about this, or this is what's on my mind. And she'll always just go, sure. And she'll sit down and do that. And I know sometimes that is the last thing she wants to do, but she always says yes.
That's so cool. She's
Yeah.
available.
Yeah,
for
she's
you.
cool.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's so cool. And she's also saying you're a priority. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm available.
Yeah, it makes me feel great.
This can wait. You're my priority.
Mhm.
That's cool. Tony, where can our listeners follow along with you?
The best place is TonyBoer.com, and you can see some of my personal stuff. And then SiouxEmpireChristianCounseling.com if you're interested in therapy or having these conversations and talking through this more with a therapist. There's people there, and me myself are happy to help you.
Yeah, and you share clips on Instagram, which
I
is
have some Instagram stuff. You can find that on Instagram, but just little things, marriage things to questions, date night stuff, just stuff to keep people communicating and having talks so that they can stay more connected.
awesome. We can link that in the show notes then too.
Absolutely.
So, awesome. Thank you so much for being on our show, Tony. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. We hope that this was an impactful show for your relationship. And we want you to know that we have marriage resources at Celebrate.church/marriage. We hope you have a great week.
Have a great week.